Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for another video talking about the recent last chance to buy situation with Forge World. And I'm doing a bit of modelling this afternoon. I'm finishing off a preparation of the interior of my Aurox tank. As you can see, I've been doing some filling around the entry ports where there was some scratchy finish, shall we say, with where the mould was, and I'm just preparing that because I'm going to paint the interior of this. So obviously I want it to look good. A little bit of filling here to neaten up as well. But as I was working, I thought it might just be interesting to share a couple more thoughts about the ongoing last chance to buy saga. And let's be honest, from a communication viewpoint, it has become a little bit of a sore point. However, it's been very interesting over the last few days, seeing lots of different videos from various YouTube commentators and various posts on various posts on Twitter, not Facebook, I don't do Facebook, various posts on Twitter, just seeing what people's reactions are and opinions. And there's been lots of interesting observations, and of course even more so in the comments section of the YouTube videos. There's been lots and lots and lots of different observations, and I think in response to the last video I put up on Friday, I think it's safe to say there's a little bit more of a, let's say, a bit more of an annoyed tone from certainly the people I would normally see as being fairly moderate about this, about their reactions to Forge World things and news in general. And I guess that probably reflects that's probably consistent with how I feel about it. You know, I'm a little bit ticked off with this drip feeding of last chance to buy releases, and also the lack of any sort of communication as to, you know, exactly how much stuff is going, and, you know, is there any wider sort of context to this. However, based on my own thoughts and other things I've read and some other people's comments, I just thought I'd draw together what I think might be happening, and also try to look ahead over the next couple of weeks and perhaps predict where this is going to go. So, all right, let's just sort of establish a few facts. So what we've had over the course of the last 4 weeks, we've had 3 separate last chance to buy announcements come along. So we started with the Elysian drop troops. Maybe it's actually 5 weeks now. The Elysian drop troops. I'm not going to edit this video, so I'm just going to, it might be a little less neatly narrated than normal. I'm a bit strapped for time today. So we've seen the Elysian drop troops go. We then saw the Solar Auxilia lose their rapiers, a gun crew, and a couple of other bits went as well. And then the week after that, we had all the torso upgrade sets for the Heresy for all of the Legions go, and some Legion unique things such as the Ultramarine Invictari upgrade sets. They all went to last chance to buy. All the Cataphracti pattern Terminator shoulder pads went, they were gone as well. And then this week, the Mark II range went on to last chance to buy. All the shoulder-mounted heavy weapons from the Heresy range, they went on to last chance to buy. A couple of other kits that are compatible also went on to last chance to buy as well. We've lost the servo skulls. And we also know that the Mark IV dreadnoughts that Forge will do and their supporting weapons are going on to last chance to buy, although they're not listed as last chance to buy at the moment, but it was in the email, and that was a communication, I think, slip up there. So we kind of got an advance notice on that one. So I imagine next Friday we're going to see those go on. What does all this mean, and what else might we be able to expect? So, well, what Forge World have told us is they're having to reduce their range down to make way for some new products. Fair enough. We don't know how many products are going to take out. However, one thing I did notice, and perhaps this isn't a coincidence, is the timing of the last chance to buy. Games Workshop PLC, which obviously Forge World is a part of, operates on a financial year which runs from June to May. So we are on the cusp of that financial year ending. If we may hypothesize, Forge World has been told to slim its range down and get rid of products that aren't selling as well. And I think it's, from what I can see so far, I find it hard to believe that the people who have any sort of involvement in that range from a creative side have any real control in this decision-making process, because the products that have gone on, there's been some somewhat haphazard choices, just from a point of view of the integrity of the overall range. And in addition, for example, we saw all the shoulder-mounted heavy weapons go on to last chance to buy, but the Mark III and the Mark IV heavy weapon troops, which need those parts, are still available. So that obviously seemed like a bit of a schoolboy error. If you were cutting these and you were a member of a creative team and you were responsible for doing it, you would either put them all in or none in. So I think my feeling is that the actual creative people at Forge World don't actually really have any control over this. Now, some of you are going to say, well, I don't agree with you, blah, 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 blah. But, that's my opinion. And I guess it's a hunch. And I can't prove it, but that's my gut feel. What I think, though, we can expect is over the next maybe week, we may see some further reductions to the range in time for the year end. So let's just establish the facts. So Forge World have been told that they have to slim their range down. Yeah. Maybe they've also been told that they have to better utilise their warehouse space, or maybe they've got rid of the separate warehouse facility that I know they had at one point, and maybe it's been integrated into a general Games Workshop storage facility, warehouse location. Although it won't be a warehouse, I don't think. They haven't got. It might be a small bit of a warehouse. It won't be a big one though. If this is the case, and that's why Forge World are being pushed to cut the range down. If we work with that assumption, the business is telling them they have to make these reductions, and the business has also said we are going to do this before year end because there's an opportunity to generate some additional sales. Given Forge World's very understandable challenges this last year because of the passing of the late great Alan Bligh and how that's affected their ability to get new stuff out the door, maybe it's a chance to boost up sales for what, from a corporate point of view, has been a little bit of a disappointing year. That's my gut feeling as to what's going on. So it wouldn't surprise me if next week we get another round of last chance to buy products. And if we do, I think the obvious candidates for what's going to go into that are the Mark III and the Mark IV heavy weapon marines, heavy support marines. And we may also see both the Legion Cataphracti and Tartaros Terminator sets go into that mix as well, because those are no longer fully supported because they've cut a load of weapons. So given that they're taking all the accessory weapons out, so the arms and the special weapon sets, although they didn't take the Cataphracti one out, maybe they'll keep that for the plastic sets, but may well see those go as well. And that's where I think, I think we're probably going to see some more. We may not see any, and if so, that would be great. It keeps a range of a game that we all know and love. And if you're an enthusiastic collector, as I am, lots of us are, there's lots of us who do appreciate the sharper detail of the resin kits and the additional modelling opportunities that working in resin presents me. Some people don't like resin models either. There's no one answer to this. I guess the thing then is, will there be more to come after the end of May? That's going to be the real clincher, I think. I mean, let's be honest, I think either by purpose or design, they lost a week because of Warhammer Fest and the negative reaction they got from the first 3 waves of Last Chance to Buy. I think they didn't do a 4th one on Friday the 11th of May because they were worried it was going to, shall we say, shape the narrative. The discussions with Forge World and, you can see quite possibly eclipse them trying to promote the new stuff they're doing. For example, Adeptus Titanicus and all the other bits of Forge World and Horus Heresy related stuff that we're doing. And, there's Blood Bowl as well, if I can say it right. And in addition, there was the Necromunda stuff and a little bit of, I think there was even a bit of Sigmar in there at some point. So they didn't want that message to get diluted and distorted by controversy around Last Chance to Buy. So maybe they got delayed a week. Maybe there's some more to come next week because of that. The key test centre, my hypothesis, is what happens if we start seeing further Last Chance to Buys as we move into June. So once we move into June, the financial year is over, and while Last Chance to Buy will generate extra sales, and I've heard from enough people now already to suggest that some people are placing some quite substantial orders. I'm debating as to whether or not to place some orders for some things that are on my nice to have at some point list, as opposed to just some bare essentials that I need. So, for example, a few Graviton guns and Volkite culverins. If we start seeing stuff beyond that, then I guess I'll be a little more nervous about what this means longer term. I mean, I think the general context is that the Heresy, I think in terms of base infantry now, they're looking at it from a point of view that the standard troops are serviced via the Mark III and the Mark IV plastic sets and the corresponding cataphractae and Tartaros Terminator plastics as well, which, let's be honest, are good models. Certainly, you got the advantage of plastic, but not as nicely detailed as the resin ones. That's just a fact of life, but they're still good models. Many people don't mind the slight loss of detail and modelling posability for the consistency of plastic and the lower cost. I guess particularly that lower cost element is highly significant to the majority of players, I would have thought. One thing that did strike me as very odd on reflection is taking the Mark II range out at the time when Book 8 is on the horizon. Within Book 8, one of the main protagonists are the White Scars, and chatting with a few people, particularly on Twitter, Mark II armour is an important part of their look and quite an integral part. There's actually some history written around it, or lore written around it, should I say. As I could tell, most of their troops in the Legion are supposed to be equipped with Mark II, so if they're losing the Mark II range, which they have, they are withdrawing the Mark II range, what will happen when the White Scars get released in Book 8? Clearly, they will be looking for the sales opportunity of selling White Scars, and I'm pretty certain we will get Jagatai Khan, we will get a Praetor in both Terminator and Powered Armour, we will get a set of Elite Terminators, or probably more likely some Elite Biker units. But they'll also be clearly looking to sell the army as well. Without the Mark IIs, though, it's kind of either they do some retconning of the fluff, or, how do they fill that model gap? Will they re-release the Mark II range in maybe 6 months' time with Book 8? Might they get Book 8 out in 6 months' time? Could do. I thought the latest likely time would probably be the Horus Heresy weekend of 2019. I think if I run any later than that, then that's probably too long. When that comes out, there's a gap in the model range there for doing fluffy White Scar units. And that made me wonder, is it a possibility that we could see some Mark II plastic Marines in a similar sort of get-up to the Calth and Prospero boxes that have clearly been very, very successful products as far as I can tell? So that's another thought. What will Forge World do to support the white scars when they come out, given their affinity to Mark II Crusade armour? Could we get another Calth style box set with some Mark II plastics in? I don't know. I've also heard that there are more Contemptor Dreadnoughts on the way. It does make me wonder, will these be new resin sculpts, or could it be that we're going to get a proper, and by proper I mean a multi-posable plastic Contemptor Dreadnought? Games Workshop have shown it can be done with the Redemptor Dreadnought, which is fully posable. So if you can do it with the Redemptor, you can certainly do it with the Contemptor, and way before the Redemptor came along, you had the excellent Castellan robot that Games Workshop did as part of the Mechanicus line, which were fully posable plastic models, probably a better direct comparison size-wise to a Contemptor. Interesting thoughts. It's certainly been a rough few weeks in many respects for us Heresy fans. It's always hard to see stuff going out of your range, particularly with a game that you like so much that you really enjoy. You enjoy for whatever reason, be it collecting, gaming, painting, modelling, and any combination thereof. So I thought I'd make this video because I'm just trying to put two and two together and think a bit about the wider context and the commercial side of things with when this is happening, i.e., approaching the end of year financial time for the business. Does that mean that a couple more weeks of this, then they're done, and all the cuts to the range is done for now? It's going to be interesting to see. I guess the final thing I want to say is just kind of like thinking about the general mood of what's happening in the Heresy. I've read, if I had a pound coin for every time I'd read a comment that said, "Oh, the Heresy is going," I'd have a nice little war fund for buying some Mark IIs now. I don't think that's happening. I've been to a good dozen events over the last few years where Forge World have been present, and I look at the way they present themselves over time, and I think they've always been quite consistent in how they've articulated their ideas for new products and supporting ongoing products. One thing I will say is at Warhammer Fest, I got no feeling that there was any lack of ideas and intent to continue developing the Heresy. I think the idea that the Heresy is going to die on book 8 is demonstrably, I can't say it's demonstrably false, but I don't get that feeling. And based on my quite extensive experience of going to these events and seeing how Forge will present themselves, something drastic and radical would have to happen for the Heresy to stop. It's maybe moving into a slightly different era where it's not the top focus of Forge World for maybe a bit of time while they devote some time to specialist games. Adeptus Titanicus is clearly going to be a big thing. They've put a huge amount of effort into Adeptus Titanicus. I was very impressed with what I saw at Warhammer Fest. They've done an amazing job. It's going to be a great game, I think. I really like the look of Adeptus Titanicus. And let's also remember that there's a few comments made by this, and the writer of the game, Andy Hall, made it several times. It was they're keeping Adeptus Titanicus in the Heresy. That to me says there's a certain commitment there from a wider creative sense from Forge World to keep the Heresy alive as an area for new development. And while they've had to take a pause on the Age of Darkness game or slow it down, I think in a wider sense they're still committed to this very interesting part of the Warhammer 40,000 lore. I think they will come back to the Heresy, or maybe not, or the Heresy will continue, maybe at just a slower pace to what we've seen before. But I don't think it's dead in any way. Anyway, those are my thoughts, and I wanted to make this video just to kind of pull these ideas together, and it's a little bit about trying to get past the initial shock of seeing all these models disappear out of the range, being put under pressure in some respects, and this is true, being under pressure to make a financial decision as to whether or not to commit and purchase right now and stretch the hobby budget. I thought a day after the announcement, I thought I'd make a video just to discuss these points, having reflected on what's happened over the last month or so in a little bit of time, and bring some ideas together. Well, I think that's everything I was going to say on this. My Aurox interior detailing, where I've done this filling, is starting to take shape now. That's looking pretty good. Need to finish taking that key away. The front section, that looks good as well. And the rear section is coming along. This needs heat bending into shape. And I've got a fair amount of work to do around here to get all that cleaned up. Nice modelling, it's coming along really well. As I say, evidence that Forge World is supporting the Heresy with new models like this. I hope you found that an interesting and hopefully thought-provoking little monologue from me. Please do share your thoughts and observations in the comments. How do you feel about this whole last chance to buy thing? Are you going to buy some stuff? Are you not? I'm still thinking about how much to buy, but I'll certainly buy some stuff. What do you think of my take on the wider context of last chance to buy? Do you share perhaps what some people would call my optimistic assessment that we're almost through all the reductions in the range and it's going to coincide with the end of a financial year? Or do you think this could go on for another month and more stuff is going to be cut? As always, please do share those thoughts. I'll be very interested to hear. But other than that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.